So, like a lot of television series is, Tarzan the Epic Adventures, which was a Tarzan TV series back in the 90s starring Joe Lara, had a pilot episode that was a bit different than the rest of the series, and that's not unusual. After the pilot, oftentimes things are refined and maybe changed for the ongoing series. But when I was watching the 2 episode pilot, I noticed that it seemed to be hinting at something larger that we never got to see in the ongoing series, and that may have tied into other worlds that were created by Edgar Rice Burroughs, who of course is the creator of Tarzan. And so the first part of the pilot is a direct adaptation of The Return of Tarzan, but they add in this amulet that Rockoff is after that's supposed to have power. And so when it's taken to this obelisk by Rockoff in the 2nd episode, it's inserted in there, and eventually a portal opens to Pellucidar, the world at the Earth's core that Edgar Rice Burroughs created. And so after some misadventures in Pellucidar, Tarzan and Mugambi defeat the Mahar Queen and Rockoff at the end and push them back through the portal and then seal it up. And then the episode ends like this.
This place should remain unknown to the world.
Your quest is unfinished.
I've returned the stones. The portals are closed and my world is safe. I don't know what else you want of me.
It is what you want for yourself that matters.
You talk in riddles, old man. What is this quest you speak of? How will I know when I have succeeded?
You will know.
So that seemed to indicate that the portal would become a major part of the series, which it didn't. It never appeared again, and this series became very much set in Africa, with all of Tarzan's adventures, or almost all of them, taking place there. Now, Rockoff would be followed up again. He would be recast and would escape the Earth's core, but it would be through a drilling machine, similar to how people got to and from the Earth's core in the novels. And Amtor would appear, another one of Burroughs' worlds, but it would not be involved with this portal. It would instead be a portal that was located in a well of all things, and Amtor would resemble nothing from the novels. But I don't think that was the intent when they made the pilot, so the intriguing thing is, what did they have planned and what would have happened with the portal? And so let's take a look at how the portal worked in that 2nd episode. So when the amulet is placed into the obelisk, it activates it. It's sort of like putting a key into something and turning it and revving it up the engine. So the portal doesn't open until one of Rockoff's henchmen grabs one of the gems that appear. They're each differently colored. He grabs the red one, and immediately it opens this portal that sucks them into Pellucidar. At the end of the episode, the Mahar Queen and Rockoff escape back to Earth, and so the Mahar Queen takes one of the gems as well. She takes a blue one that looks kind of black once you take it out and it's not glowing, but she's got that one as well. So after a battle, the Mahar Queen and Rockoff are both defeated and both thrown into the portal. And then Tarzan replaces both crystals, which closes the portal. So my theory is that each of those crystals probably corresponds to a different world. Because the Mahar Queen pulled out the blue one, I think that portal was not originally meant to send them back to Pellucidar. Actually, I think the intention was for it to send them to another world entirely. So this is all theory, and we're going to theorize even more by guessing where those crystals may have taken people. So we know one went to Pellucidar, but where would the other 3 colored crystals have gone. And so if you look at Edgar Rice Burroughs' other worlds, Barsoom, or Mars, the home of John Carter and Dija Torres, is a very likely suspect. It is Edgar Rice Burroughs' second best-known work outside of Tarzan. It had a comic book crossover with Tarzan at the time, and it was a part of the Tarzan the Epic Adventures toy line, which was kind of curious because it shared the same name as the show, and yet Barsoom or Mars never appeared at all in the show, so it would have made a lot more sense for Barsoom to have been one of the destinations that portal would take people. So I think another one of those gems would have taken them to Amtor, or Venus, which is the home of Carson of Venus and Princess Douari. And so I think that this is a very likely possibility, not only because there was a comic book crossover between Tarzan and Carson of Venus, but we also got an Amtor episode of Tarzan. Now, it didn't resemble the novels, and it was this really curious cross between Barsoom and Amtor with a lot of new elements mixed in. So I sort of wonder if this episode may have spun off from, development they had done, with the pilot on possible episodes set on Amtor or maybe Barsoom. And of course, Amtor would have made some really cool toys, and actually during a toy show, Trendmasters actually did say that it was possible that Carson of Venus could become a subline in the Tarzan the Epic Adventure toy line if it had continued. And probably the wildest speculation would be what that fourth and final gem would have done. And my theory is it probably would have taken Tarzan to Vana, which is the world inside of the moon. This is from Edgar Rice Burroughs' Moon trilogy, which, after the properties we've been talking about in this video, would be his next best known work. And it just happened to have a crossover in the comics with Tarzan at the time. And it's easy to imagine how it would have made some really cool toys if they'd added it as a subline with Tarzan the Epic Adventures. So again, this is all just 100% conjecture. This is just a theory. But if I am correct about that, I still think that they took a good direction when they decided to instead set all of the stories in Africa. Because every time they tried to do something with one of the worlds that Edgar Rice Burroughs created, it just strained the budget of that show. You could just really see the limits of what they could do with their TV budget. And, it was just a much better choice to, use the resources that they had well and set the stories in Africa and do the lost cities as opposed to lost worlds. I think a series that would have evolved around the different worlds created by Edgar Rice Burroughs was probably better suited for animation, which at the time could have been amazing. I mean, you look at what was done on animated series like X-Men the Animated Series and Phantom 2040, Exo Squad. It was a really good time for animation, and who knows, maybe someday we'll still get that. I would love to see, Tarzan, Lord of the Universe or something. I think that would be really cool. But what we do have is Tarzan the Epic Adventures from the 90s, and it is available to watch on both Tubi and on Amazon Prime. So what I'm going to be doing in the next few weeks is I am going to be reviewing Tarzan the Epic Adventures, and I'm going to let you know what I think of this classic series from the 90s starring Joe Lara. So join us next time as we go jumping off waterfalls with Tarzan in Tarzan the Epic Adventures. See ya.